Hello, everyone, and we are back with the second part of my podcast in regards to sharing my story regarding coming out as transgendered and my advice to others. For those of you that have been waiting for part two to come out, today I want to apologize for the delay. Right now, my upload time, I have the first part uploading. It's going to be about an hour and 40 minutes for it to upload. Because of the length of that time, I decided I would go ahead and record part two. But part two will probably be done before that time, and I probably won't stay up to wait for the second upload. I'll probably just wait until I wake up in the morning or the afternoon, considering it's 2 o'clock now, and I planned on being in bed. But so I will probably upload the second part later. There'll probably be, I'd say, a 12-hour gap between part one and part two. For those that did watch part one and have been waiting, my apologies for the delay in part two. So when I left off on part one, I was getting ready to tell Nana Jay and my son that I was transgender. And as I stated, I was completely terrified. However, the depression had gotten to the point that I knew if I didn't tell them, and I had to look at another 18 years of keeping it secret, I probably would have done some form of suicide. The depression was that intense. And I stated before, to say that I wasn't terrified is not a truth. I was horrified. I don't think that there wasn't a part of me that wasn't shaking, knowing that the words that I was about to say could and would, in one way or another, completely change my life. And as I stated in part one, you have to understand that there is a cost. There's a price theory, as one of our favorite characters in Once Upon a Time says. So there we were. I called my son out, and I called Nana Jay out, and I basically blurted it out for lack of. I didn't have no great speech prepared. Anybody that's watching my vlogs can tell I didn't have a great speech. Like my vlogs, it was unedited. And I basically told him, I said, I'm a woman. And I'm tired of pretending I'm not a woman. And I'm tired of trying to be everything that everybody else wants me to be without being true to myself. I can't do it anymore. If I have to do it, I'm going to kill myself. I just can't do it. I know that this is a lot to take in and whatnot. But you need to understand that I'm a woman. I'm going to start behaving like the woman I am. I'm going to start being the woman that I am. To say it was a shock to Nana Jay is an understatement, to say the least. Now, I have to give the woman a lot of credit. She stood by me. Not something easy for someone with a strict Catholic background. Though she immediately stated that the marriage was called off. We couldn't get married. The way I tried to explain it to her And the way that I explained it to a lot of others that had questions is I referred it to a can of Coke. You don't stop drinking a can of Coke just because they put a polar bear on the can. While the outside may change in appearance, there's still the same contents inside. I'm still the same person I was before I came out transgender, only I now freely express my appearance. I still love the way I loved. I still, am the person that I was. Now, my son that I raised, he kind of shrugged it off lightly, made a comment, made a lot of sense because I was the only guy he knew that cried at movies. Like I said, there were signs for those around me. They just had to know what to look for. It has changed our relationship because I'm not 100% sure how he, I don't think he knows 100% sure how to deal with it, but he stood by me. There was one point in time he did state that he thought it was a phase, and I had to explain to him that no, I've always known, and the reasoning behind why I didn't. I didn't come out because my parents, the way they were. I didn't come out because I was too busy trying to be what everybody told me I had to be when I was with his mom. That I didn't come out with when he was growing up because I didn't want that to cause problems for him as a child, and we know that people are cruel. Even if they were, society was accepting of gay and lesbians during the later years of his growing up, we still are not a society that is very transgender friendly. When I stopped reading stories about a transgender being murdered or a transgender being uh, having the hell beat out of them, then I'll think about the fact that maybe society's changing, but Americans were not. I mean, an example in the capital city of Bangkok, there's 170,000 transgenders in that city alone. They're widely accepted as part of the culture. But as Americans, you'd rather put a bullet or two in our head or beat the living heck out of us just because we look different or we're not who you think we are. A lot of people, why are transgenders, why are members of the LGBT community seem to be angry all the time? Well, you do go through what we go through on a daily basis, and you'd understand. I don't go out at night unless I have somebody with me. I don't go out, period, unless I have somebody with me. Or unless I absolutely have to. I live in a town of, I believe it's 17,000 people. I'm one of, I think we now have 3 openly transgendered people. And I read threats and other things from people within the community on a regular basis to transgenderism. It took a long time for Nana J to deal with my being who I was. Now, the one thing I want to say, and I want to say especially to those that are transgendered and those that do come out, I'm sure I've made it abundantly clear that you can lose everything. It doesn't mean that you're going to. You could lose everything now and find something better down the road, or you could find something within what you have that you didn't know existed before. Not just in yourself, but in the people around you. The words that cut me deepest on the day that I came out was Nana J saying we couldn't get married. It hurt. She could have chosen to completely walk away. Take my grandkids. My life could have completely changed in an instant. But she stuck around. She came to terms with who I am in her own time. And then one day, she turned from her computer to me, and I'm sorry. As I said, this is a very emotional thing to talk about. A lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of feelings. No, she turned to me one day from her computer, and she looked at me and she goes, "When are we going to do it?" At that point in time, I had no clue what she was talking about. We'd been talking about some completely other topic. And I looked at her and what are you talking about? She goes, "When are we going to get married?" My sisters and my brothers out there, there is hope. There are people out there that will accept you for who you are. It just takes time. Some people, don't let me lie. Don't let me, not so much lie, but don't let me fool you. There will be people out there that will never accept us as who we are. That's just society. But there are people who will accept you. So I'd come out to the two of them. It was a long discussion. She asked two of the biggest questions that we get asked all too much. And if you're cisgendered or norm, let me put 2 points to rest here. Her first question, like many people's question, is, "So you're gay, like guys?" No, being transgender doesn't mean that we're gay. If you want to put it into that light, yeah, I'm a lesbian. So technically, I guess I am. Who I identify has nothing, who I identify as has nothing to do with my sexual preference. I'm a woman that loves women. Just because a person is transgender doesn't mean that they automatically identify with the sex that you identify them with. Truth be told, I think men are the ugliest species ever created, not far evolved from apes. That's why they're so hairy. I wouldn't want to sleep with one. That's my sexual preference. Just because I identify with myself as a woman does not mean I'm naturally attracted to men. So don't ask somebody when they tell you they're transgender. Don't make the assumption that they automatically are gay, because it has nothing to do with it. Gender identity doesn't have anything to do with sexuality. The second question was, so you're going to get chopped off? Or do you or don't you have let me explain to you, we're not all able to afford that surgery, that sort of surgery. A head to bottom change costs about 80 grand, I think last time I heard. About 70%, I think was the last time I read the statistic. 70% of all transgenders have the original equipment they were born with. We can't all afford a surgery to change that. Some people have to. Some transgenders have to have it changed because they can't accept the body. Those are the people that suffer from dysphoria in regards to their being transgender. But let's put it into realistic terms. First of all, there's the money. Then there's the person's health. It's a surgery. Being transgendered, yes. Sometimes we can't change the reproductive organs that we were born with. But I dare you to go out to any natural born woman and tell her that the only reason she is who she is because of her private parts. A person's private parts does not make them who they are. A woman is not caring simply because of what she was born with. It's who she is in here. It's who she is in here. Yet so many people on the street, broadcasters, it's always the first question. And you know what? It's none of your business. Unless you're sleeping with the person that's transgendered, it's none of your business. You shouldn't rate them on their reproductive organ that they have or don't have. Those are two questions we get all the time, and they're so aggravating that that's how people rate us as to who we are. So my son supports me and has supported me, whether he completely understands it, whether he's, I don't think it's something that he accepts 100%, but he didn't stop supporting me and who I am, because he knows who I am, comes in here and up here, not out here. Nana J grew to understand and become one of my biggest supporters, and eventually married me. To my grandkids, I'm simply Nana D. If and when the time comes that I need to explain to them, it's very simple. I've always been a woman, genetics made a mistake. They gave me the wrong outer shell for what was within. My daughter is a member of the LGBT community. with her sexual preferences and has been completely supportive. That came at a cost. Cost me an oldest son. Cost me every friend I had at that time. There are people that knew me that I considered friends that as soon as they see me, they walk the other direction. Or lie. Hey, we need to get together. Yeah, we will. Okay, it's been years. I mean, I had one person I thought was a close friend, and we had dinners at our place all the time with her and her son. Dropped me off. I had a person I thought was my friend who had been asking me all the time to go bowling. And when it came out at work that I was transgendered, the next bowling thing he planned, he asked everybody but me. When you do something of this magnitude, it can be a very lonely adventure, unless you take solace that there's people out there like you. You know, we all can't be Gigi. We all can't be Laverne Cox. We all can't be Jenner. We all can't afford to make us more visibly accepted to community. I can't afford the 4-hour sessions of $50 to $75 per hour. I can't afford the 4-hour sessions per day, every week, once a week, every week for the first year for dialysis or for electrolysis. I can't afford voice lessons to change my voice, even though I try. But every time I start getting to where I think I have a feminine voice, I have to put bass into the voice for the grandkids to listen. Can't afford facial reconstructive surgery. I can't afford to have that shaved down. Why? Because I have a family to take care of. I have grandkids to count on me. I have a spouse that needs me home. That's one thing the world needs to understand. And if you're a viewer that's not transgendered, you need to understand we're not different than you. Maybe in the way we dress or how we view ourselves, but we want to work. We want families. We want to take care of our kids. We want to live life without feeling threatened. We want to be able to walk down the street without being hurt or called names or stared at. We want the same things you guys all do. So after I came out to my parents and the debacle at work, that there's no doubt regarding just the discrimination I faced there. Some employees were supportive. Some were not. Some broke trusts. To some, I was the token transgender friend. Oh, I'm not biased. I'm not a bigot. I have a transgendered friend. Lost everything except for those closest to me. And you have to understand, if you're going to come out, if you're going to tell those around you that you're gay, lesbian, transgendered, bisexual, the world doesn't completely accept us. There are costs there is pain, there is loneliness, but there is something about being true to yourself. And I have a hypothesis on why the world treats us like we do. They do. We live in a world where everybody tries to be what everybody else expects them to be. And when you try to break that mold, or you try to be true to yourself, there's resentment for it, because they don't understand it. The Joneses are trying to keep up with the Smiths. How dare the Paulettes down the road not care? How dare we go against the grain of the norm and be something different? And it's not just related to the LGBT community. I watched as one of the employees of one of the last places I worked at, pretty white girl, get her up in cornrows completely. She really, not my type of hairstyle, but she really liked it. She was being herself, doing something she wanted. That's how she wanted it. She felt good about it. She came in the next day with him completely undone. And I asked her, I said, why did you take him out? And it was because people had been nothing but negative to her. We live in a world where if you're different, everybody's got to be negative. And I think it's because people out there try to be something other than they are, and they're so wrapped up in that they lose out being true to themselves, so that those that choose to be true to themselves and not care about the status quo, not fear the status quo, not care about the status quo, but being whatever makes them feel good, or ever how they feel they should be, well, they can't understand it, so they fight against it. I really think that's part of society's problem. You know, we live in a world where people's judgments come up against common sense. Let me give you a recent thing, thanks to our United States government. Thank you, Mr. President. President Obama gives transgenders rights on the federal level in regards to federal jobs, and also allows them to be in the military. That gets changed with a new president and the swipe of the pen. Now I ask you, in a world where people don't want to fight, don't want to enlist, don't want to fight for their country, don't feel the need or the responsibility, like people like myself, my father, my uncles, that it's a part of our responsibility to defend the nation. Here you are, Mr. President, constantly at it with North Korea, to the point that we may end up in military actions with the country, and you take soldiers willing to lay down their life for their country, for the rights of everyone, and you tell them they can't serve. People who at home here in our country are judged on a daily basis are willing to lay down their lives so that you have the right to judge us, because that's freedom. You have the right to your opinion, because that's freedom. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Doesn't mean I have to change to fit in your mold. But these people are willing to lay their lives down for our country, and you're telling them they can't when you have the norm that some don't want to do it. Common sense. Common sense seems to go out the window when it comes to people of the LGBT community in regards to the norms. But the one thing I want to say to transgenders and members of the LGBT community is things won't always be negative. Things won't always be bad for you. True, sometimes it's a lot of weight to carry, but the freedom of being yourself is rewarding enough. But let me give you a little story on the aftermath of my coming out. Now, there will always be prejudice. That's something that we have to accept. There's always a burden for us to carry. Being true to ourselves, that's something that we have to carry. But after I came out, after I was discriminated against in my job, I went looking for work elsewhere. And I found probably the only company here in this town that would hire me because I was transgender and would not allow me to be discriminated against. It was the first job interview I'd ever gone dressed up with as how I was. And I got the job. And I went to work there. And boy, did I get my share of stares. That would last for 4 years. Especially if there was a training class coming through. I'd get stares. I was the company's first transgender. They had members of the gay and lesbian community, but they'd never had a transgender. I was the first transgender in the entire company. Our legacy, and I know I've said this before, our legacy as human beings is the people who we touch, the lives that we touch. We're not all going to be presidents and rock stars and astronauts, but the legacy we leave behind is the people you touch. After my training, I'm sitting there and I'm on the phone and I'm doing my job, and a lady comes by and puts a note on my desk. You show great courage in being yourself. And while others may not accept it, I applaud you. Well, we'll go on to the next part of it. Is when I was hired, their agreement was to allow me to use the women's restroom. About 3 months after that decision, I got called in the office, and they were going to try to make me force me into using the men's. Apparently, 6 employees. 6 employees out of 100. Out of hundreds. Had complained about me using the women's restroom. And they had gone each step up the ladder. Every time they got told no, they went to the next step. Got to the point I ended up on a conference call with the personnel office in a bigger building and had spoke to our personnel and had told them I said I don't feel comfortable doing this. My first question was, have they ever called me into the office to talk to me about it? No. That's the next question I asked is, I said, well, this is obviously, by their actions, it shows this is obviously 6 people that don't care about fair, that don't care about open lines of communication, that don't care about getting anything other than they want. I go, let me explain this. I go, at what point am I female enough to be using the bathroom? I go, because I could go out have this complete surgery tomorrow, come in the next day, and those 6 people would still be complaining. Because this isn't about me, it's about them. Because that's what it was. Didn't matter what I think, didn't matter how it felt. These 6 people didn't care. Made it quite clear. I said, you know, I go, you have to look at it from my viewpoint. I go, well, first of all, I go, did I do anything to cause problems when I use the bathrooms? No. I went in, eyes down, went to my stall, did my business, and left. That's what a bathroom's for. I don't go in there thinking about the woman next to me or anything like that. I went in to do my business. When you gotta poop, the last thing on your mind is sex. Sorry. Been no reason for and there've been no cases of any problems of my using that, other than the fact that these 6 people didn't want me to. When I started working there, I had asked if they had a 3rd bathroom, if they had a bathroom that was separate for the office. They didn't. And I had made it clear, you know, that I had asked that. You know, for me, if I go in the women's bathroom, I may get screamed at, but if I go in the men's bathroom, I could get beat. That's how a lot of us feel, because men have a hard time accepting us. Worst case scenario, we'd be extremely harassed. The end sequence of it was we ended up, the company, you know, you're willing to use a 3rd bathroom? Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Let's make it a special needs bathroom. You know, put an outlet in there so the mothers, instead of going to the conference room, can have a room that they can sit down, put a chair in there. They can lock the door, feel safe, and, you know, pump their baby's breast milk. Or for diabetics, you know, or we got people with walkers. The company ended up changing the complete philosophy of the company. Instilled in, not just the 3rd bathroom in there, but in every building that the company has, and it's a requirement of all future builds. And I was leaving that, and one of the employees had overheard me when I was talking with personnel over it. Gave me a pat on the back and said, I'm so proud of you for standing up for what you believe. During my employment there, I'd have several people come up to me and say I inspired them, or that they drew strength from me being me. I watched as people that hated me when I first started, eventually turned their viewpoint around about transgenders because they got to know me. Things do get better. People around you do change. The people in your lives that matter, that you want to have around you, will be the people that support you in your decisions. I'm not an activist, but I stood up for my rights. I never set out to inspire or motivate individuals, but I did. I'm not going to change the world. I'm not pretty enough. But I can change the way some people do, look at us. And they do change. Don't get me wrong, you'll have those people like those 6 people that they're so set in their mind that no matter what you do, what you say, you're never going to change them. Those aren't the people you need around you. Made a couple of good friends that supported me along the way. And yeah, it did cost me all the people that I thought were friends, but when you think about it, are those the people you wanted to have around you in the first place? If they can't accept you for being you, because you know what? This changes. Doesn't. You're still who you are. Comes at costs. Prejudices are there. They will always be there. Can't go shopping without somebody staring at me, but I'm being me. I'm not the one with the problem. And you have to understand that. You have to accept the fact that, you're not going to change people, but it's them that have the problem, not you. Regardless of whether you're lesbian, gay, transgender, cisgender, bisexual. Same goes for whether you're black, white, red, oriental, Hispanic. Doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you, especially the bigots. Not if you're being true to yourself. We each have our cultures. We each have the way we are raised. We each have our viewpoints. But here in America, we're so young of a country that we're warped. We were settled by prudes. North has its feelings, South has its feelings. But everyone has something to offer. Everyone's human. You want to learn respect? Learn it from the Oriental culture. Very, very respectful culture. You want to learn a family orientation? Hang out with some Hispanics. The one thing, I once accidentally went off of my Yahoo and somehow ended up on Yahoo Britain. We Americans think that we're so important. I think we had one news story out of their whole section. We as people think we're important. And we project our own beliefs and expectations on everyone around us. But that doesn't mean that we're right. That those people have to be the way we expect them to be. The only person that needs to be the way they want to be is you. You have to be true to yourself. I was a very angry individual for 40 plus years because I wasn't true to myself. And it was the freedom of finally being true to myself. Yeah, there are people that hate me out there for no other reason than the fact that I'm transgendered. And guess what? I don't care. Just because you think I'm wrong doesn't mean I'm wrong. Just because you don't believe in the fact that I'm being true to myself, guess what? You're not me. You're not living my life. Don't like the fact that I'm transgendered? Don't have to be involved in my life. All I ask is don't affect my ability to work. Don't affect my ability to support my family, and don't and at least respect the fact that I am alive enough to have the same freedoms and rights as you. You don't have to agree with my way I live my life. But guess what? If you don't agree with the way I live my life, you're probably not in my life, so what's it matter? You know, you don't see rednecks getting shot on a weekly basis. But heaven forbid if you're a man or woman of color and in the wrong neighborhood. You know, you don't see, you know, it's ridiculous. Then we can't respect individuality in this country. We can't respect the right to it. It's a heavy burden I carry as someone that is transgendered, because I have to carry your hate on these shoulders, your stares, your judgments, your discrimination. And yet, heaven forbid I get angry about it. That's why some members of the LGBT community out there are so bitter, because you force them to be. But you know what? You want to learn a thing about life? You want to learn a thing about people? Or open-mindedness? Or intelligence? You should look at members of the LGBT community. Because we don't condemn you for your beliefs. We know how to turn the other cheek. We don't judge you simply based on your hair, your clothing, your style, lack of style, your drawl. Good golly, Miss Molly. We try to respect you as human beings. And the thing is we do it and we learn from it. We have some of the most creative people around. For those of us that are transgendered that feel your judgment simply because we dress in a way you don't like, or we get surgically done in a way you don't like, that you can find, you go to your Bible or whatever and automatically throw down judgment on us. Oh my God, we gotta make a law against transgenders from using the bathroom. because they're pedophiles and they're this. We gotta protect our children from the weirdos. If laws were gonna stop sex deviance, rape, children molestation, if laws were going to prevent it from happening, then we shouldn't have any. Because there is no. The laws are already in place. It's just another way of judging us, of getting what you want in the name of the greater good. And you sit there in judgment, not knowing us. We're freaks, weirdos, and everything else. You know what a transgender understands better than any of you supposed Christians out there? When Jesus looked up into the heavens and he said the words, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." He was talking about the ignorance of man. Those that judge us in such a manner because we're dressed different. We identify as female despite what you think. We identify as male despite what you think. We sleep with men, we sleep with women, whatever. And you judge us simply without knowing us. You're biased against us because you don't know us. And all we can say is look to the heavens and say, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And this really wasn't meant, the ending of this wasn't meant to be an addressing situation, but it's the reality of the world. It's me talking the reality to my brothers and sisters in transgenderism out there, my brothers and sisters within the LGBT community. The truth of this video, the main point of this video, is life is not going to be perfect if you come out. But you will feel a freedom and a sense of relief by being who you are. And the thing you have to remember is what everyone else around you, that the negativity, it doesn't matter if you're being true to who you are and how you feel. Coming out is scary and you can lose everything. And you're going to always have to fight against discrimination and judgments. But gradually your inner circle will be built upon the fact of people that support you or that respect you for who you are. And that's the truth of the matter. That's all that matters. Is that you be true to yourself. Yes, you could lose your wife, you could lose your husband, you could lose your children, you could lose your job. You know, a lot of transgenders are unemployed out there because they can't find work because of the discrimination. But there's also people out there that are successful. I mean, look at the actresses. There's actresses out there that are transgender. There's models that are out there that are transgender. There's lawyers out there that are. There's Singers, be true to yourself. If you can't accept the costs of the personal freedom that you're going to feel, then you're never going to escape the expectations bubble. You're going to always live with that fear. You're going to always live with that depression. Yeah, being transgender, I live in fear every day. It's a fact of it. That's the society we live in this country. It's not like other countries where we can go and be free of that biasness. It's a part of the life of who we are until, if and when such a time, this country accepts us. But we have to live our life, and you have to decide for yourself if you can live with that part of you hidden. And the biggest part, the biggest fear of being discovered, staying with you all your life. Even though you do little things. My life ain't great. It ain't perfect. But it is my life. And I will live it how I choose. I will not allow somebody else to dictate who I am. I will not allow someone to dictate what I can or cannot do in my being true to myself. Someday society may change, may accept us. Someday it may not. But I tell you what, on that day that I was scared, oh so scared, of what it would cost me, glad I did it. And yeah, I've gone through a lot of pain because of it. But I've also been rewarded because of it. I have a woman in the other room that loves me immensely, that supports me. I have grandchildren in there that support me because they don't care. The world hasn't put its prejudices on them yet. I have friends that accept me. And at least I know that they accept me. I don't have to worry about them stabbing in my back, me in my back, like some people that I really trusted did, because I fit their norm, and it changed. So that's my story. And that's my advice. My next video will be regarding my wife. But I'm going to go ahead and hurry and end this now because I'm almost over the time limit. I want to wish everyone a wonderful evening, and we will talk to you again.